Working with kids is the most rewarding, exhausting, and unpredictable job on the planet.
And we are so here for all of it. Welcome, everyone, to Adventure Nannies on Air.
This is the place where we get into the conversations that are really on the minds of incredible nannies and families day in and day out.
I'm Shenandoah.
And I'm Reagan. And we're here from the team at Adventure Nannies, a nationwide agency that helps progressive, globally minded families find the talented, passionate nannies, educators, and newborn care specialists to join them on all their adventures.
We're tackling everything from the big stuff like how to navigate conversations about legal pay to the fun stuff like our go-to hacks for making travel with kids feel like a total breeze.
Along the way, we'll hear stories and learn from incredible guests, both in and outside the nanny industry.
Whether you're a parent, a nanny, or a lost person on the internet, we're glad you're here with us. Let's get into it.
Before we dive in, just a quick note. The views you hear on the show today are personal opinions of the speakers and don't necessarily represent the official views of Adventure Nannies.
And just a heads up for anyone with little ones nearby, we can get a little passionate, which means some salty language might pop up. You might want to grab your headphones for this one.
Okay, Shenandoah, we are officially in December, which just feels so right. Like it's been such a long year, but also completely wild and way too fast.
Oh my gosh, the end of the year it always sneaks up on me and all of a sudden I just never ever feel prepared for it. Like the calendar is screaming, guests are coming in and out of the house, there's parties to go to, there's gifts to wrap, there's horrible weather systems that just show up out of nowhere. And just always trying to figure out, like, are we going somewhere? Are we traveling? Are we hosting? Are we hunkering down and just letting everybody else figure it out? So stressful and fun for so many different reasons.
Absolutely. It's just the beautiful season. And for nannies, it adds a whole nother layer because not only do you have your own holiday plans and management, but also then your nanny families. You might have extra house guests and kids are home from school. Sometimes there's travel, big trips. It can be a lot.
It can be a whole lot, which actually makes the conversation I had today feel so perfectly timed. I got to chat with Margaret Sullivan, who took all of these feelings and stress and unknowns of what a lot of families experience just around the holiday season, and she launched it completely into the stratosphere.
I am so fascinated and impressed as a mother myself with her. For anyone who doesn't know, she and her family, we're talking 2 kids under 6, basically just packed up their entire lives into carry-on bags and traveled the world for a year, 29 countries. Like, holiday chaos year round is what that feels like to me.
Yes. And this happened a few years ago. She's written an incredible book about it, but basically right after they came back from their trip and then moved back into their apartment in New York, we had COVID. Her story is as incredible as it sounds. And we talk all about where the spark for this adventure came from. She was inspired by seeing another family on the plane and all of the kind of turbulence around deciding if it was something that her family could do or if any family could do it. And so she really gets into some of the misconceptions that they had before they left on this trip and shares like some really amazing tales and some really epic fails from their journey around the world.
I love that she calls and owns her fails, and she just calls them her fails. And it just makes it feel so much more real. And I can't wait for our listeners to hear the whole episode. It just was such an awesome conversation.
Yes, she is wonderful. And her book about her experience in her year of travels is called Following the Sun, Tales and Fails from a Year Around the World with Our Kids. Are you ready to dive in, Reagan?
Let's do it. Here's Shenandoah's conversation with Margaret Sullivan.
So today we have with us Margaret Sullivan, who has written an amazing book called Following the Sun, Tales and Fails from a Year Around the World with Our Kids. And Margaret, I know just in hearing your story that you and your husband did quite a bit of world travel pre-kids, and then you did what most families do, which is kind of pull back on the traveling, settled in. And it sounds like it was really a family that you just happened to witness traveling out in the world that kind of sparked something. Can you tell me a little bit more about what happened that triggered this whole adventure?
Yeah, I would say that it was actually a macro epiphany combined with this micro moment that triggered this, like you said, this adventure. So yes, my husband and I traveled a lot. I had lived abroad. We fancied ourselves world adventurers, and then got married, had kids, and settled into the life, as you said, and very easy to get into a routine. And it sometimes just takes getting off the routine to break out of the cycle and look at your life from a distance and say, oh my gosh, what's happening? And that's what happened to me. I took a business trip to Tanzania. I traveled a lot for my job at the time, never with my family, but always for work. And while I was abroad, I thought, I was at this conference and hearing all kinds of incredible ideas and hearing from folks from around the world who were doing wonderful things in parts of the world I had never visited. And I just had this moment where I thought, how have I strayed so far from this interesting traveling life that we had before? And what can I do to bring my family up to speed and get my kids out and exposed and get back to that? Because I loved it so much. And so just in the course of 5 days, I had this moment like, we've got to get out of the cycle. The world is big. We are small. Time is short. Let's get out there. And so I came up with this whole idea of like, we need to break out of the cycle. Anyway, with my head in this spinning cycle of where should we go? Should we take a sabbatical? What does this look like? I boarded a flight, a small plane. It took many flights to get home from Arusha, Tanzania. I board a plane, and there I see an American family that looks a lot like ours. And they get on the flight. They sit behind me, a mom, dad, and 2 kids about the same age as mine, a little older. And they start doing math homework in a workbook behind us. And I can hear them doing word problems. And I'm thinking, who are these people? This family, it's the middle of the school year. We're about to touch down in Zanzibar. This family gets off. They're all tans and hats and traveling backpacks. And I look out the window at them crossing the tarmac. And I just thought, is that what we're supposed to do? Or are we supposed to be this family that travels in the middle of the year and does homeschooling? It just felt like a spark went off. And then we were off to the races. We, meaning me. I sat down with my notebook and started writing out all the ideas. Like maybe it's a year off with traveling with the kids, no jobs, homeschooling, on the go, seeing as much as we can, doing as much as we can, not someday, but now. And I came home and I pitched that idea to my unsuspecting husband. It then took another year for us to get to yes. But that's how it started. It was like, you never know what can happen when you step outside of your life for just a few days and have this, open your mind to, or not even, I did not go into this with an open, I had no idea that we were going to get to where we did.
Amazing. And I know at the time, your kids one kid is in school, I think. You have an apartment in Lower Manhattan. You have a dog, which to me in reading was like, this is the one reason that I cannot do this trip.
I know.
Because of my pets. Something that we hear quite a bit from families when we're first talking to them are concerns and anxieties about how their friends and families perceive even the act of hiring a nanny or taking some kind of sabbatical or starting to move around through multiple homes. Or right now we're talking to a lot of families who are thinking about relocating to another country for, about 4 years or something like that. And I'm sure that in your New York circle with your friends, not everyone said, oh, that sounds fun. Have a great time. When you said, yeah, we're going to give up our apartment. We're going to pull the kids out of school for a year. Here we go. How did those conversations go in your life? And did they sway you or help guide your plans in any ways? Did you know anyone who had ever done anything like this before?
We knew nobody who had done this before. Now it seems families are doing this all the time. And maybe that's just because I'm more aware of it, but we didn't know anyone. And for us, the biggest fear were my in-laws. I was so afraid to tell them that we had this idea because they're rule followers, they're safety freaks. They love to know what the plan is and they want to make sure that everyone is safe. They're beloved grandbabies going out into the world. I feared would make them very uncomfortable. And so we really held off as long as possible telling them this plan until we had every last answer fully baked. And so I think coming to them and presenting the plan with very thoughtful answers to all of their worries and concerns went such a long way to making them feel comfortable, so much so that by the end of the conversation, my mother-in-law had already pulled out her planner and she was busy slotting in weeks when she thought she might be able to visit us on the road. So to us, that was a huge success, but I think a lot of preparation went into it and making them feel more comfortable. I think otherwise, generally, people were very excited for us. Like, you're doing what? I can't believe this. This is incredible. I wish I could never do that because XYZ. And we can get into that kind of self-talk. But maybe there were a few, like, maybe a little jealousy from some people, I would say. You could read it in their eyes, but no outright, like, what are you doing? This is a terrible idea. Generally, people were very excited.
That's wonderful to hear. How did you, I know you had done a fair amount of travel, world travel, before your kids were born. How did you balance kind of tailoring the trip to suit your kids' needs without feeling like you were sacrificing the adult travel experience that you had kind of been accustomed to already?
That was a really tricky balance for us. So our children were 4 and 6 when we left. And once we decided to go, my husband and I just got really excited about all the potential and the possibilities, and this itinerary exploded. And it became this, we bought a world map, put it on the wall, and looked at it every single night. And every time we did, we added a place to the itinerary, and it just kept growing and growing and growing. And we thought, this is really going to be a nomadic trip around the world. Like, we're going for it with sort of like, yeah, they'll keep up. The kids, it'll be fine. Mm-hmm. I think where it almost immediately hit us that this was something we needed to do a better job balancing. It was about 2 weeks into the trip. I remember it very distinctly. We were in Cartagena, Colombia, and we were having it was a beautiful place, but we were wanting to do so much there. My husband and I, we wanted to go sit at that cafe. I wanted to take street photos with my new fancy camera. There was this restaurant that we'd heard about where people danced on tables, and we wanted to do that too. This is the kind of thing that my husband and I would do when we traveled. And turns out when you have a 4 and 6-year-old who are whining, their feet hurt, it's hot, I'm hungry, where are we going? What's the plan? That shattered my vision of this adult vacation. And we had to have a come to Jesus on one of those nights in Cartagena. We lay in bed talking, staring at the ceiling, going, we need to recalibrate this whole thing. Let's have a reset. We signed up for this. We're dragging them around the world. They're not the ones who came up with this idea. We got to meet them where they are. This is not a couple's fabulous vacation. This is a family adventure. So let's do things together as a family. And the priority is everyone's comfortable and having a good time. And it's we can push them a little bit, but we can't resent them for not wanting to do what we want to do. So, you want to stay at the playground a little bit longer? Let's do it. Your feet hurt? Let's sit down. Let's get a snack. It just, from that point forward, we had a whole new way of thinking about the year, and it really helped. But it didn't come easily.
I'm sure it didn't. Where do you feel like some of the biggest stretches were? Because I know when families are thinking about traveling with kids, they're thinking, we're going to go to a playground every day, and we're going to go to a kids museum. And I read a little bit of that in your story, but where were some of the moments or the experiences where you were saying, okay, 4-year-old and 6-year-old, we're going to take a leap of faith, and I'm going to take you to not a super kid-friendly on the surface activity today?
When it was successful?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
It's plenty where it was not. Yeah, I mean, the unsuccessful version of that would be over planning and trying to do too much. I mean, this is not going to come as a surprise to anyone, but when you go to Egypt for a week and you fill it every single day with 5 different ruins and sites and tours, and you're in a bus and you're going, it's my 4-year-old, finally, we get to Karnak, one of the most famous sites in all of Egypt. He would not get out of the van. He stomped his foot and he said, why? We don't even stand anything. He meant we don't understand what's going on. What is this? And it made us laugh so hard. We don't stand anything. We'd taken one of the coolest parts of world history and just made it excruciating for them. And so that was, we're going to have to probably go back to Egypt and do it again. The advice there, of course, is pick one place per day and make it really special and lead up to that one thing. And the rest of it's, getting a lemonade and walking around and looking at the stray cats and dogs and just eating some interesting food. Sometimes the stretches needed to be accidental to prove to us that they were capable of doing more than we thought. Like, we were on the Western Cape of South Africa, and we went to this incredible park called Robert Nature Reserve. And there's a fabulous hike. There's a 20-minute hike, a 3-hour hike, and a 6-hour hike. And we said, we're going to do the 20-minute hike, of course. And we did it. We took a wrong turn, and we ended up doing the 3-hour hike with no snacks, no water, no sunscreen. It was a mess, but it actually wasn't a mess because our children plowed ahead. They were tough. They were strong. They went up really steep inclines. They walked around a cliff face with the Indian Ocean splashing against the rocks. It was just this incredible moment of sheer natural beauty, and also just witnessing our children rise to an occasion that we didn't expect them to be able to do. And after that, we just thought, why are we putting limits on them? Why don't we see what they're capable of without saying, oh no, they can't do that, or they wouldn't want to try that, or, and that translated into them going from picky eaters to extremely adventurous eaters, eating grilled silkworms in Cambodia and that kind of thing. And we just kind of stopped putting the limits on them and allowed them to fly.
Amazing. Did you tell them on the hike, kids, by the way, this is now 9 times longer than we said, or were you and your husband just kind of looking at each other of a...
Yeah. First there was the look, the sigh, and then the, okay, guys, here's the deal. Mommy and Daddy made a mistake. We're going to have to see this thing through. And there may or may not have been the promise of a frosty can of Coca-Cola at the end when we got back to the hotel, because that was their absolute favorite thing. And they never got Coke. And so this can of Coke, this promise of Coke, maybe that's what was driving them in the end, but it worked. And it was that and Hubba Bubba bubble gum, which we would pack and my mother would send me and bring to me, and we'd have for real treats. You'd get a piece of bubble gum if you were really good.
I should implement some treats in my house as well.
We started calling them rewards, not bribes, rewards,
Of course. Yes, everyone needs a good reward sometimes. I loved hearing about, you have so many adventures in the book. You almost capsize a boat when a piranha lands in your lap in Brazil, and everything from those big adventures to just thinking about what it must have been like to navigate grocery stores in dozens of countries with your kids, and embracing hygge in Denmark and buying Mongolian clothes for a festival and wondering, like, am I allowed to? Is this cultural appropriation? Now that you have been home it's been a little bit more than 5 years, right?
Yes.
5.5. What lessons from the trip have stuck with your family the most? Because your kids are more than twice as old now as they were on the trip.
It's kind of crazy. They're middle schoolers now. They're very entrenched in their lives. They've got their friends and their sports and their dance and all their activities. We talk about the trip still, I'd say, daily. It's the biggest, most defining element of their lives. And they may not recognize or remember a lot of the details, especially my son, who's now 11, but it certainly shaped them. There's no question that this experience shaped who they are. And it's hard to know what's nature, what's nurture. It's hard to know if the pandemic experience, which came after this, overrode everything they learned on this experience. But they are not afraid to speak up and ask questions, ask for help, ask a stranger, or identify what kind of stranger is the one to ask for advice, directions, help. That is something that they saw their parents do every single day for a year. Be vulnerable. I need assistance. Can you help me out? Which is a great one for kids, especially when you live in New York City. I think that they have a mature ability to suspend judgment. They're not going to say something's weird or gross if it's just different. Maybe like taking a beat and acknowledging that people do life differently. And just because it's not the way it looks in our house, that it doesn't mean it's wrong or bad, which is an awesome trait. I love that. I think for our family, generally speaking, that year, we were able to, with time and space and the discovery of just peace, able to distill down what we call the Sullivan family life priorities. They're just without the clutter and distractions of work and the claims on our time from jobs and stress and other scheduling busyness. We were able to see that what mattered most to us was right in front of us. It was our time with our family and loved ones, spending time outdoors and nurturing our physical and mental health, learning constantly, like being curious and making sure that we're always asking questions and checking out the new exhibit or meeting or get together or whatever in our city or abroad. That list is pretty short, but I think one of the biggest ones is that we also don't need stuff. So like our life since this experience has been decluttered in so many different ways, both literal and figurative. We came home and saw all of the stuff that we had put in storage, all the stuff that had seemed so important before we left, and we had whittled down before we left. And this stuff just screamed clutter to us at this point. We don't need any of this. We ended up giving so much away and said we never want to do another purge like that. And we live so minimally now that it's just, it's so much easier. It's like in the same way that we have said our time is our own, we do not want to be bogged down with the clutter of busyness ever again. So like we just are pretty ruthless with our time and how we spend it and prioritizing time with our family and friends. So like I like to say is the figurative equivalent of taking your arm and wiping off a cluttered desk and just starting fresh. Nothing to clean up, just a nice clean slate. And it's the piece that we discovered that year we've been able to hold on to through that.
Your packing lists that you have at the end of the book were incredible. Like even after going through all of these other big stories, that to me was one of the most amazing things was like, they just had roller suitcases and they were gone for a year. Like how I can, if I'm going to a conference for 3 days, I can barely get away with a roller suitcase because I'm thinking, okay, I need my daytime outfit, but then I need my nighttime outfit. And then what if I'm going to work out? I need that outfit as well. And correct me if I'm wrong, you each had like about a week's worth of clothes with you at all times?
Yep. We had one international size carry-on roller and one backpack that could fit, very important, that could fit under the seat in front of us on an airplane. So we were a full carry-on family, but we also checked those rollers whenever possible. And people always say, wow, you have carry-on bags. And the point of the carry-on was not to do carry-on. The point was to keep us honest with our packing. And so by checking, we could be the last ones on the plane. We weren't going to be fighting for overhead space. It made the airport experience very peaceful with small kids. And so we took 79 flights that year and we checked almost every flight and we only lost our bags once. We got them back 3 days later. It was in Amsterdam, not a big deal. And we still actually do that to this day. We'll travel. One of our most recent trips saw us going to ski in Switzerland, then to Paris for, looking chic in Paris for 4 days. And then we went to Florida to see grandparents, all with those same carry-on roller bags and backpacks. And we did it, and it can be done.
Incredible. I know it does seem like more families are doing this now, are excited about doing it. And I think that, as you said, some of that may be a symptom of COVID, where everyone was in their house and had 18 months or longer to kind of have that 5-day epiphany that you had. What kind of advice would you give for families who are thinking about doing some more life-altering travel like your family did?
I would say consider that you're more mobile than you think. All of the reasons that you think are preventing you from doing something like this may not actually be preventing you, unless you are a full-time caretaker for somebody or caregiver for somebody in your family and you really can't leave. And there are reasons people can't do what we did, but there are, things like school and jobs and mortgages and pets and all of these, if you go one by one and really have a conversation about them, can be addressed. We admittedly happened to have this epiphany right when, we were renters, and both of us had like these natural stopping points coming up in our careers, and our kids were still pretty young. So even then it felt almost insurmountable. So I know that it feels hard, but if it's something that you want to consider, don't just have this knee-jerk no. Just really think through the possibilities. You might be more mobile than you think.
Amazing. And I know you mentioned you've still been doing some travel. Does your family have any adventures coming up? I know we're recording this kind of right before the summer break happens.
We're like every other family that likes to travel but has school-age kids. We're traveling when we've got breaks. We've got a lot of summer travel baseball coming up to New Jersey. But we are going to be going to Spain and Scotland in August, which I'm really excited about. Our kids have more of a say in where we go now, which is small plug for doing this kind of adventure when your children are small. Is there a game for whatever? They just want to be with mom and dad. Now they have opinions at 11 and 13. They want to go where they want to go. So we've had a lot of fun watching actually old reruns of The Amazing Race, which I recommend for families, because it's these, it's playful and fun and fast paced, but you're seeing parts of the world and you're watching teams be resourceful and help each other out and be good travel companions. It's actually an incredible show. I'm sorry I didn't think of it sooner, but that has given us a lot of ideas for where we want to go. So thank you, Amazing Race. But we're going to Spain and Scotland. And yeah, we've tried to do as much as possible. We've gone to Guatemala, Oaxaca City in Mexico. We've done Switzerland and Greece and Portugal twice. And we just continue to get out there whenever we can, including in the United States. One of our favorite things to do is fly to a state, rent a car, do a 1-week road trip within the state, and then fly home. So we did that with Tennessee. We did that with Alabama. They're just, we've got to get out of our New York City bubble and see what else is going on. So we're planning to do something similar in Illinois this summer as well.
Wonderful. Well, Margaret, it is such a pleasure. I want to close us out with my favorite question to ask grown-ups, which is, if you could go back in time and choose your own nanny as a 5 or 6-year-old, who would your ideal nanny be?
Is this like 5 or 6-year-old today, or me in the 80s as a 5 or 6-year-old?
It's a very abstract question. They don't necessarily need to be alive or someone that you would have known about when you were 5.
I'm gonna go with Elizabeth Shue's character in Adventures in Babysitting. That is one of my favorite movies from childhood that I've now shown my kids, and it's funny, but I thought she was so beautiful and she's so cool, and she was, whatever came her way, she was able to solve it and be the hero and show the kids a great time and make something scary fun. So she was pretty badass.
That's a fabulous answer. Thank you so much. Where can people find out more about your adventures or keep in touch with you if they would like to?
Instagram's probably our travel Instagram. We update only when we hit the road. It's Sullivan Family Adventure.
Perfect. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Margaret.
Thank you.
And that's a wrap. Thank you so much for spending a little bit of your day with us.
We'd love to stay connected. You can find all of our past episodes and summit sessions on Apple Music, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcast fix.
For the inside scoop on the latest job opportunities and community stories, you can always find us at adventurenannies.com or come say hi on Instagram, Facebook, or Blue Sky.
If you loved this episode, we'd be over the moon if you'd leave us a review. It's a huge help in getting the word out to other folks.
And if you hated this episode, well, sorry. It couldn't have been that bad if you made it this far, right?
We'll catch you next time.